Now then, Vinyl Monkey back again at last. Sorry it's been a bit longer than expected following my COVID bout, but hopefully back on track now and try and get something out at least on a sort of weekly basis. But this is continuing my series of top 10s, and this week it's my top 10 live albums, which I've got to qualify by saying that I ain't got all that many live albums, maybe 50 odd. So whereas in all the other top 10s I pretty much had the complete works of those artists to draw my top 10 from, here of course it's just my limited selection. Having said that, some cracking live albums in there which would probably feature in many top 10s, I would argue. So it's been difficult as usual. I mean, live, yeah, brilliant. I mean, music is all about you know, it's great to listen to music anywhere, you know, whether you're in the car, on your hi-fi system, at home, whatever, chilling out. But the gig, the live experience is just unbeatable. Seen a great one last week, Nick Cave, Warren Ellis. Beautiful, absolutely brilliant. And happily, since the sort of COVID restrictions eased, I've seen a few good local gigs as well. So it's been great to listen to all these live albums. Very difficult to draw a top 10. Wanted to probably, the only way I'm going to do justice to some of the ones I feel bad about leaving out is to give them a bit of an honourable mention before we get into the top 10. And I'll start with the jazz men, for they are all men in my collection on the jazz scene. And I've only included one jazz album. I mean, jazz does lend itself to the live sort of album, the small club, sort of loose, sort of free sort of arrangements and everything. It does lend itself to that, but I haven't included them, even though these are great albums. And I've got 3 that were recorded live at a club in New York, the Village Vanguard. Got Bill Evans, the brilliant pianist. Got Kenny Burrell, the jazz guitarist, and Sonny Rollins, the saxophonist. And all of these are beautiful albums recorded at a small club in New York. There's a lovely Bill Evans trio double album recorded later on in his career, just before he died in 1975. And then Chet Baker's last ever concert, which I think I might have mentioned under the letter B on one of my previous videos. So they're all great stuff. Humble Pie performance. Probably should have been in the top 10, but I mentioned these under the letter U, and they got a bit of a description in there. But that's a cracking blues rock live concert. Then there's live albums to sort of chill to, the electronic Tangerine Dream, all the sort of Latin tinged Carlos Santana, beautiful stuff, but not in me top 10. Gil Scott Heron, who I actually seen live in my hometown Hartlepool when he ended the 3rd day of the famous or infamous Dock Rock concert back in '86, and this is one from '83, just before that, but with the same band and the same sort of set list. Absolutely beautiful. That's live at or live in Bremen, Germany in 1983. Gil Scott Heron, brilliant stuff. And then a couple of sort of box set-y albums. Concert for Bangladesh, which was the first, this is George Harrison pulling it together when the Bangladesh-Pakistan civil war caused all sorts of famine and terrible tragedy in Bangladesh. This was the first big fundraising rock concert, which obviously led on to Live Aid and beyond, but brilliant stuff from George Harrison. And then this is the band's last concert, the farewell concert, The Last Waltz, which features an absolutely stellar cast: Clapton, Dylan, Emmylou, Van Morrison, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, etc. But both of these have been made in, well, they were made films around them. Scorsese directed this one, and they're both brilliant films and probably just as well enjoyed on film. So again, although it's superb stuff, I haven't included those albums in my top 10. But what I have included, starting at number 10, this is a band who I think I unfortunately never seen, but I think live probably is the best way to experience them, and this is the sensational Alex Harvey Band live. And this is just a great album that I mean, it highlights the great guitarist Sal Clemenson. It really sort of features him strongly, more strongly than perhaps on the studio stuff, but it is all about Alex Harvey, who just comes across as absolutely mad, crazy, deranged, and I suppose that reaches its pinnacle on side 2, which track 2, which I think is the definitive version of the song Delilah, with its awful lyrics that I mean Tom Jones made famous, but I think Alex Harvey, as I say, is the definitive version. But yeah, sensational Alex Harvey Band from 1975, recorded from the Hammersmith Odeon, which I've been to quite a few times. But yeah, brilliant stuff. Crap cover, I've got to say. One of it's in my bottom 10 record covers. I think it is a real shame that, but that's my number 10. My number 9, the one and only Chuck Berry, St. Louis to Frisco to Memphis, and this is a double album, and the first album is live with Chuck Berry backed by the Steve Miller Band. I mean, I think Chuck Berry, when he was in concert, he just picked up sort of session musicians wherever he went, and you know, very, very variable quality, but obviously the Steve Miller Band, great band, and they do justice to some of Berry's classics. And I think this one was rushed out in 1972 because I think he was having a bit of a revival. I don't know if you remember that single, that awful single, My Ding-a-Ling, not really representative of the brilliant Chuck Berry, and happily that isn't on this album, but many of his other classics are, and that's my number 9, Chuck Berry. My number 8 is Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel, the concert in Central Park, and this is what year was it? This is 1982, and Central Park, this was a fundraiser for the upkeep of Central Park. Apparently Central Park is overseen by, I suppose, the American equivalent of some sort of charity or something, and this was a fundraiser for that, and allegedly 500,000 people turned up. It was a free concert with the money to be made off the sort of concessions and stalls and whatever around the park. That has been disputed, that figure, as to whether that number could actually fit into the space that they used, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's a great album. It covers, you know, I mean, just look at side 1, Mrs. Robinson, Homeward Bound, America, Me and Julio, Down by the Schoolyard, Scarborough Fair. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's all their classics, performed beautifully, with a bit of banter in between some of the tracks, and yeah, lovely. Simon and Garfunkel, concert in Central Park, 1982. My number 7, and I did see this band in the year that this was produced, and it was my first ever rock concert. It will stay with me hopefully forever. Absolutely brilliant. Slade. This is Slade alive. And anyone who thinks Slade were just a sort of a, you know, some sort of manufactured pop band to exploit the kids and the charts and stuff, listen to this. You know, these were a real rock band. They were a great rock band. Brilliant vocals, Noddy Holder, Jim Lee, superb musician. This came out before most of their sort of misspelt singles that followed on, and it contains a couple of their own tracks, but other stuff by Alvin Lee and yeah, some sort of blues standards there, as well as a couple of their own songs. But this was Slightly different in that I think everyone realised, and the record company realised, the Slade experience really was the live experience. They wanted to capture that on record. But the recording, the ability to record live with all of the, the vagaries of the hall, the crowd, and all the rest of it, it's always difficult to get that right, and a bit risky, I suppose. So what they did was they hired a studio, they brought a live audience in, they set up all the recording equipment. So it is really, really nicely recorded, and I think it's if you want one Slade album, I think this is it. Slade Alive from 1972. The next one is the one jazz album I've included. This is Keith Jarrett, the Cone concert, a concert from 1975 in Germany. There's Keith Jarrett there. Apparently he was knackered, he'd been travelling, he got there late, the concert didn't start at midnight, but you would never know it from the quality of the playing and the quality of the recording as well. This is TCM, the record company, and it's beautifully recorded, and it's just 4 parts, 4 sides, double album, 4 pieces of music, all of them absolutely beautiful, and you can feel the live experience. You can almost, you can feel him hitting the keys, you can feel him breathing, coughing, hitting the pedals. I mean, it's just the real live experience. So Keith Jarrett, the Cone concert, 1975, beautiful. My number 5, this is someone I've seen live a couple of times, and he's just a brilliant musician, brilliant singer, brilliant performer, founding member of the Velvet Underground, of course, John Cale. This is a triple album, Fragments of a Rainy Season, which is John Cale, I suppose, unplugged before unplugged became fashionable. This is just him and a piano, doing most of his sort of material, well, reducing, stripping back most of his material. Most of it originally would have had strings and band and everything, so it's just him and a piano, laid bare, absolutely beautiful. He also does a few Dylan Thomas poems as well, which are stunning. I think the standout track for me may be Dying on the Vine, if you were going to pick one off it, but it's absolutely beautiful stuff. John Cale, just at his piano, Fragments of a Rainy Season from 1982. My number 4, this is someone I really wished I could have seen live, but he died when I was only 12, so that was never going to happen. But this is Jimi Hendrix, Hendrix in the West. Great photo inside, which sort of captures Hendrix on stage. The West in the title refers really, I suppose, to the west coast of America, because 6 of the 8 tracks here were recorded at Berkeley or San Diego in California in and around 1969-70, with the Experience, with Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding, and they're just all superb versions of Hendrix's material. There are 2 sort of little oddities which were recorded at the Isle of Wight, the first 2 tracks on side 2, which is one sort of deconstruction or a knacking, really, I suppose, of the British national anthem, which is great, and secondly a version, a tribute to the Beatles, a version of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club's Band. But the 2 standout tracks for me on here, if you're going to listen to 1 or 2 tracks, is the extended blues Hendrix classic Red House, or that other shorter Hendrix classic Little Wing. And I think the version on here, which he recorded at the San Diego Sports Arena, of Little Wing is absolutely beautiful, and I think for me that's the best version of Little Wing that I've ever heard. But that's my number 4, Hendrix in the West from 1971, although obviously he recorded it before that, since he died in 1970. My number three, and I've seen this guy a few times as well, and some of the best concerts I've ever been to. This is Jonathan Richman, Modern Lovers Live, from 1977. This is Jonathan Richman in his sort of second incarnation. He started off with the Modern Lovers in the early 70s, and it was a sort of pre-punky, Velvet Undergroundy style sound, but then he'd gone off and he'd started doing voluntarily sort of singing in care homes and people with disabilities and things, and he wrote songs for those concerts, and he wrote many sort of songs that appear childlike, naive, innocent. So on Here, I'm a Little Aeroplane, Here There Little Insect, Ice Cream Man, I'm a Little Dinosaur, My Little Cook and Harkin. And all these sounds, as I say, naive, possibly sentimental. You know, if on paper, if you look at the lyrics, they'd seem a bit like, yeah, sentimentally peppy, but Jonathan Richman is such an authentic person. He's filled with integrity and honesty. You just can't fail to see beyond that naivety and really appreciate his genuineness. I seen him, I remember at Shepherd's Bush Empire once, a real boozy crowd, 1,500 people. They were well boozed up and in a sort of pretty raucous mood, and Richmond came on just an acoustic guitar and his sideman with one snare drum, some couple of brushes, and he just had that crowd for an hour and a half or 2 hours in the palm of his hand. He would hush them down when he wanted to, and it was just the force, or probably force is the wrong word, but as I say, just his personality, which is so genuine, so authentic, that you just can't help but love it. And yeah, listen to Ice Cream Man on side one on Here, where he repeats the chorus 18 times when he thinks the crowd are going to, when he thinks he's finished and they start clapping, and then he goes back into it 18 times, which you might think's over the top, but it's really, really funny. And then the beautiful Morning of Our Lives, the last track on there, just fills you with hope and optimism, love for your fellow human being, which yeah, no bad thing in these times, I suppose. So that's my number three, Jonathan Richman, Modern Lovers Live, 1977. My number two is a band I just missed out on, actually. I nearly got there. I was deemed, my mates were going, my older mates were going, 1972, when they'd reformed to the City Hall, and actually I don't know whether it was I couldn't get the money together, or I wasn't trusted to go with them, or whatever it was, but I just missed out on that, and the gig ended up getting cancelled. Partly was a power cut, I think, mainly some sort of power problem at the City Hall. But anyway, I did get to see Paul Rodgers and Bad Company's first gig at the City Hall. But anyway, this is the superb band Free. I've got all their albums behind me here, but this is Free live. It's got All Right Now, a beautifully extended version, I'm a Mover, Be My Friend, Fire and Water, Ride on Pony, The Hunter, and then maybe my favourite off this album, Mr. Big. And this album is just so underproduced. It just feels like